The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on our monthly District 1 Regional Association webinars. My name is Rocio. I am from SAGNY, and today I am happy to present Cliff Quicksell, who is here to help us maximize our time management by evaluating and segmenting our clients. This is the second time that we've had Cliff on it, and we're more than happy to have him again. Cliff, thank you so much for joining us. If you guys have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them out in the questions panel. I will read them out to Cliff at the end of the presentation. Again, feel free to type them out, and Cliff, pass it on to you.
Thank you very, very much, Rocio. I appreciate you having me back. Folks, I'm very excited about this. This is a presentation that I've done on numerous occasions, and it's gotten a lot of good reviews because what we all struggle with time management, I think, at some level, some more than others. Our clients struggle with it as well. And what we're going to talk about is there's something that I have worked with a lot of my clients on a consulting level on how they can actually look at their client base, prospect base, and how they can streamline the operations and how it all ties back into using effective marketing. We're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to expand this a little bit, not only about your time management and evaluating and segmenting your clients, but what do you do with that information? How do you take that information and how do you, formulate it in such a way with, creating your budget so that when you're marketing more effectively, that you're not spinning your wheels. And again, it all dovetails and brings the time management element all back into full circle. So what we're going to talk about today is, some of the challenges that we all face and some of the challenges that your clients face, defining what you do. What is it that you exactly do? What are you worth? Talking about how this time management helps you in creating and developing a significant plan that you can move forward. We're going to look at the different channels where you can grow your business and how to be more effective there, and defining marketing objectives, your marketing strategy, and tips on how to use the marketing funnel. You'll see how this all, as I said, dovetails together. And then we have a few relevant case histories that we want to share where you can see by utilizing creative marketing that's segmented into certain areas or specific vertical markets, et cetera, that it can be very, very productive, and not only productive, but highly profitable. And that's, for those of you who have heard me speak before, that is my mantra. It's okay to brag about what you sold, but it's more important about what you can make and spend. And so that's the whole idea here today. And I'm hoping that each of you are committed to a strong outcome here. One of the things that I realize as a speaker, trainer, and coach, and doing consulting work is that not every bit of information that you get is going to be information that you're going to embrace and take on board, and that's okay. But what I would ask you to do is to look for, during the presentation, look for a couple of nuggets that you can take back, things that you can apply to your business, because each of you out there on this call are probably at different levels in your career, which is all great. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that you're picking up a nugget or two or three that can actually help elevate your game and make you more profitable and, again, more effective as you grow your business. So we have a lot of different challenges that are facing our clients. The clients are younger, they're busy. What I find now is that a lot of the people, and I think we've all experienced it, where you might have had an individual that has had one or two hats that they wear. Now, because of consolidation and people streamlining their businesses, you'll find that some people have to wear multiple hats at the same time. So it's very important for you to keep that in mind. The work week or the work strategy in many organizations, people working from home or remotely, things like that. These people their time is crunched terribly, and just like ours. So how do we go about maximizing the time that we have so that we're not struggling? You know, it was interesting. I was at a conference recently for the National Speakers Association, and I hear a lot during my consulting work is the people will say, oh, but Cliff, you know, I send these quotes, I do these follow-up requests, and then nobody gets back to me. And I had a fellow speaker of mine made a very interesting comment. His quote was, "You're not relevant to your client. You're not relevant to your client until you're relevant to them," which means you do the work that you have to do. But the reality is, until it's important to them, it's kind of like off the table. It kind of ties into what we're talking about here. Clients are very challenged. And also you have people now that are doing things by committee. Everything is done by a committee. So not one person is making these buying decisions. And then we have a challenge, the coded pricing. You know, one of the challenges that we have with coded pricing is that everybody feels that secret code that we have is kind of dictates, you know, where we can actually on the fly tell what kind of profit we're making. Well, I pulled this up. I put in promotional product discount codes, and number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the list is the description of exactly what it means. So this gentleman right here, he actually posted this in 2011, but yet it still remains on there. I did a little deeper search and found out that yet again, they have another another site that talks about demystifying the promo codes. So at the end of the day, these codes that we feel are so secret aren't so secret. Well, they may have been to the 50-year-old, 60-year-old person perusing the web, but now for your smarter, younger, more tech-savvy people, i.e. the younger generation or the millennials, it's easy for them to find that. So again, that creates a little bit of angst. One of the other things that I found is that most people do not have a written plan about how they're going to go to market. And what happens is that affects your time management, because if all of a sudden you're just scurrying around trying to plug the proverbial hole in the dike, trying to put out fires, it creates a lot of angst. It creates a lot of struggle in your business. So to be able to, sit down and actually have a plan, and you'll see how all this comes full circle as we talk, but having that plan is really critical. It's very interesting that I did a study several years ago, and I asked several hundred people, do you have a marketing plan? And resoundingly, about 30% of the people said, yeah, we do. And I asked this at a lot of my seminars too. But what's interesting is only about 3% have one that's written. So once again, if you try to store all this in your head, and I have the plan all put in place, guess what? That doesn't necessarily work, and it doesn't work well. So there has to be ways that we can go to market a little bit more effectively. So again, I look at this and I ask, what are you worth an hour? Your time is critical. I believe that all of us should be looking at our professional and business life in this sense. Now, when I said this to my son, he thought I was kind of goofy, but I told him, I said, Alex, I come first, and then you and your sister and Maria, they come second. You come second. And then from there, it's my friends and my family, my friends, and then my job. I believe that I have to be whole and at the top of my game, and I have to be on target constantly in order to positively have a positive effect on those below that segment of the pyramid. So when we talk about, what do we do for a living? A lot of people relegate themselves to just selling the product in the industry, which I think is a bit limiting, and it pigeonholes you. But I've heard the phrase a lot that I'm a professional consultant. But when I look at the definition of what that means, it really is someone that gets paid for their professional advice. Unfortunately, in this business, most people get paid on what they sell. And I contend, not only because I've done it, but I know multiple other people that have done it as well, I believe that you can get paid for your expertise as well as the deliverables that you bring to the table. So again, I want you to think about that. If I were to ask you, what are you worth an hour? What would your answer be? Some people have told me as little as $10 to $15 an hour. but I contend that everybody on this call is worth a minimum of $100 an hour. If that were actually the case, how would you go to market different? How would you be considered an expert in your field? And not only an expert in what you do, but an expert in your client's field. And you'll see again how this all dovetails together. There's actually 4 channels in which you can grow your business. You can do it with current clients. You can do it with former clients. You can do it through prospects and referrals, and you can also do it through acquisition. So we're going to talk about these a little bit, not so much the acquisition side, but we're going to talk about, how when we segment our client list, how do we do it with these first 3 channels, our current clients, former, and prospects and referrals? How do we do that? And what are in your plans? What are the plans that you have to move this needle forward for yourself? So marketing vertically and laterally, what brought me to this point? I'm a big believer in marketing vertically, especially vertical marketing, and that is basically finding segments, and we're going to talk about that, or channels in which to focus and grow your business. Most distributors nowadays and suppliers sell the product sale. And the problem with product sales and is the perception that the end users have of us. I mean, PPAI did a study years ago and asked the question of over 4,500 buyers. When you think of promotional products, what names come to mind? And they had these cute, catchy names like trinkets, trash, junk, crap, landfill, tchotchkes, doodads, hunks of hell, spiffs, spoofs, and gimmies. And it was just, in my opinion, pretty sad state of affairs. I don't like being referred to, or didn't like being referred to, as the pencil guy or the balloon man. I think it was very demeaning at some level, because I know, like all of you on this call, you bring a higher level of expertise to the table than just being referenced and pigeonholed in that nature. When you're just selling product, the other side of this is it's what it boils down to. It's low value, in some cases lack of value, and no loyalty. It's all commodity based. So when I looked at that, walking into someone's office and I'm competing with 25 other people that are just price driven, I said to myself, there has to be a different way, not necessarily better, but I found it to be better way of going to market and really starting to grow my company on a financial basis. So things that we're going to talk about is, what are vertical and lateral markets? Who are they? Who are the players in there? And why should we be looking at this strategy, et cetera? And how do I go about marketing to these groups? Where does it all make sense? I believe that if you can change your mindset first about how you do this, then it's much easier for you to help your clients understand how this would benefit them. I actually have had multiple cases where, by going in and focusing on particular vertical markets, the perception 9 times out of 10 is that you're more of an expert in that particular field. And so we'll discuss that. So what are broad vertical markets? You look at hospitality. I have a list of probably 40 that I'm very familiar with. And I would encourage you, there's a few suppliers out there that really, really get it. Vic Graphic, for instance, has an amazing brochure on vertical markets. Phi Industries has another one on vertical markets that is absolutely remarkable. So I would encourage you to, and I don't get anything from either of them. I'm just letting you know that I'm always looking for these different channels that I can help people grow their business. But those 2 companies in particular, I've seen the collateral material and it is absolutely brilliant. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. So we have these broad vertical markets, and you can now narrow these down. So if you look at banking and finance, for instance, that's a broad vertical market. So think about your space, if it's in New York or in Washington, D.C. or Baltimore or whatever. If you look at that broad vertical market of banking and finance, that encompasses a lot of different companies. But if you started to narrow it, so if you go banking and finance to credit unions that are located in Georgia, that's still big. If you narrow it down to Atlanta, Georgia, now you start to narrow and get more focused, that have greater than 5 branches, that have 1,000 members in their organization and are within a 50-mile radius of your company. So when we start narrowing this down, imagine you're sitting there at your desk and you say, boy, I want to start marketing to banking and finance. Where do you start eating that elephant? That's so massive. It totally affects our time management, because what happens is we wind up stalling and doing nothing. Yet we've spent time trying to focus on where do we start, where do we begin. So if we go back to the premise earlier about how we're going to segment our markets, both our prospecting and our clients, our prospects and our existing clients, things will be totally different. The other side of this is your laterally. So you have different departments that you can market to. So human resources, marketing, sales, C-level, PR, whatever the case may be, those are broad lateral markets. And in each of those channels, they experience different challenges. So for instance, there's diversity issues. So if you're looking at human resources, for instance, within all of those channels, take that one for instance, human resources experiences these or has these as challenge, these pain points: diversity, training issues, attrition at the office, recruitment issues, retention, how do we keep our good staff and qualified staff, and then benefits. I look at that as each of these areas is an opportunity. What happens is, if from a vertical or lateral standpoint, if you start honing in on these targets, guess what? You become more of a centralized expert for these clients. And this is what they're looking for. In a seminar that I do called The Top 10 Things Clients Want, this is what one of the top things that clients want. Price is not on the list, but what they want is they want someone that understands their business. So oftentimes people will say to me, Cliff, where do I get started? How do I do this? Where do I begin? I would often say, start with where you have a background or expertise. I have had people come to me and say, hey, I've had a lot of experience in martial arts. Maybe martial arts schools are the way to go, because if you become viral in that space, you're not limited to just your remote area. It could go viral, and it could be all through North America. So you can create that type of space for yourself. So some of the players that you look for, like I'll give you an example. In hospitality, I have a background in that. So who would you talk to? It depends. You know, it could be the food and beverage director. It could be the owner of the business. It could be the executive chef. It could be the human resources person, whomever within that market. But that can vary between organization and organization. So these are just some of the things. So it's incumbent upon you, and that's why that's why I suggest strongly that you start with industries that you know. Because if you know these industries and you've worked in these industries before, then you're going to be able to understand who those players are more effectively than the other person that's struggling trying to figure it out. So I just encourage you to consider that. So when we talk about segmentation classification, this was a hard thing for a lot of people that I consult with to get their arms around, and what the importance of this is. So when we start looking at segmentation, we're going to start looking at how do we go about actually taking the segmented by industry that we talked about. So if you're looking at, hospitality, you look at your current client list, and we had actually created a pretty extensive Excel spreadsheet that actually you can load all this data in. And it really does give you some information that's pretty remarkable, because what you can do is you can do year-over-year comparisons as to, how each of those vertical markets are trending. And then inside those vertical markets, we start classifying them A through F and H. And then you can actually, if you choose to, you can create your own model with this. I mean, however you choose to code it. But we have found that this has been very, very effective. So the other thing that we found is that by taking these and segmenting your clients by vertical market, you really do get a strong picture of which one of the markets are the strongest for you in your particular space. I remember working with one of my friends, Linda, and she was convinced that banking and finance was her strongest segment. But when we put the numbers into the spreadsheet, we found out that it was not the most profitable sector for her. And at the same time, she was able to then make some new changes of how she would go to market to these people, and it really streamlined things. And now it has become a strong vertical market for her in her space, and it's become very profitable. So I'm all about creating space for yourself and systems that make you more profitable as you move forward. So when we start, sorry about that. Okay, when we start classifying our clients, we're going to be looking at them, identifying your ideal client. And I ask this question a lot of people: what does your ideal client look like? And what are some of the characteristics of your clients? And I would encourage you, we're not in a live session, but think about that. You know, what does the ideal client look like? And it's not just someone that has a lot of money to spend. I think it needs to go deeper. And so what would your top level customer look like as it relates to the amount of money they spend, the opportunities that they have, et cetera, et cetera. Now, why is this important to understand? If I have an A-listed customer that's driving a lot of revenue to my business, profitable revenue to my business, they're easy to work with, they're open-minded, they pay their bills on time. That's the type of ideal customer that I want. My goal is to look at my client base and say, what can I do to move those D-level customers to C, my C's to B's, my B's to A's? I should constantly be looking at ways to go about doing this. When it comes to marketing, the reality is, am I going to devote, we're going to talk a little bit about budget, but I have X number of dollars to budget for these clients, for prospecting, for my existing customers. So the question is, where do I allocate it? Do I take and I spend $4 on a marketing piece that's going to go to a D-level customer that I know, while they're a good customer and as much as they buy one time a year, the reality is they're not as good as an A-listed customer who's loyal, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole idea is, how do we go about taking that marketing budget that we have and allocating it in such a way so that our A and B listed customers are getting the lion's share of that? How do we touch people at the lower end where it's not expensive? And we'll talk a little bit about that too. But at the end of the day, I look at classifying people, and again, this is going to be different for each person. I'm going to show you a slide here in a minute, but each person is going to be different. Now, there's customers or people that I've worked with that have had no A-listed customers at all because they have a standard that what is their A. So our goal again is to kind of move those people in that direction. So A through E listed customers, you make a determination on what that means. An F listed customer, the question is, I look at that as people that have failed. And if somebody has failed me, and I don't care how big they are, guess what? Sometimes it's better to cut them loose. And we'll talk about that in a second as well. Okay, there is an H pattern. I call this a holding pattern. I encourage you that as you start to bring on customers, if you buy into this whole concept, I encourage you to put new customers into an H category. And I'll show you the classification, the way the spreadsheet works here in a moment. But what happens is now they put in a holding pattern because you don't know what characteristics they have that you've established. So they sit there for 120 days, and then after they've proven themselves, then they get moved. And again, it's just about moving and shifting these people as you go along. So hang on one second, I apologize. Okay, so when we look at the different types of things that identify the client, it could be your sales volume, profitability, opportunity percentage. You know, what type of market share do you have currently within the customer? If you're only doing about 20% of their perceived value, then there's a major opportunity there. The relationship, are they open? Do they communicate with you? What is their disposition? Are they always running you around? We know, so you get my point here. You know, do they pay their bills on time? Are they loyal? These are some of the things that are most important to me. So, and I think I would equally say to you as well. But the reality is, guess what? It's going to be different for each person. So if an F-rated customer called you, would you pick up the phone? Would you take their business? Some people say yes. In my opinion, I would say that you shouldn't, because once you, by doing that, it opens up tons of opportunities for you if you start clearing house. This is what we talk about. This is the Excel spreadsheet that I'm talking about, that you basically have all these different vertical markets, and this is pretty much just a short list. But now you can sit here and you can go in and evaluate how automotive is doing compared to education. Where are the strengths? Where's the profitability? Now, this was just a dummy list that I put together. So, but you can get an idea of now how you can actually sit here and look and evaluate where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. So if I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, wow, you know, real estate's a great market, but my average gross profit margin is only 26%. Now I can sit there and go, why would I devote any time and effort to an account that's doing 26% when I can look up here and energy, oil, and gas is doing 39.8%? Wouldn't I want to put more of my energy into a vertical market that's going to actually be generating more revenue for my company? And again, I find that a lot of times people that I work with are just spinning their wheels and don't have the direction that they need to really move forward in a productive, positive way. So by being able to put this in some semblance of order, by putting it into a spreadsheet, as I mentioned, so that you can sit there and actually analyze this, it makes all the difference in the world. I find that a lot of this is like part of your plan. I'm going to execute my plan. I'm going to be targeted and focused on these vertical markets. And by the way, I would encourage you to consider developing 5 vertical markets, probably not more than that. And it doesn't mean that the rest of the customers go away. But I will tell you that if you have 5 vertical markets that you are truly working, and what do I mean by truly working? I mean, writing white papers for that group, marketing incessantly to those groups, perhaps attending trade shows and maybe speaking at those trade shows on how they can be more effective. I will tell you that that can go viral quickly. When I had my marketing company, as I'd mentioned, hospitality was one of my largest vertical markets, and I was exhibiting at their trade shows. I was speaking at their trade shows. I was doing things that I needed to really expand that space. And make no mistake that if you do it properly, your name can go viral in that vertical market, because these people talk, and whereby you'll be getting info. I mean, I just had a situation the other day where I'm working with one of my customers that did the exact, she says, Cliff, I'm starting to get calls from people I have no idea who they are, but they're being referred by other customers, because she's really bought into the Kool-Aid and realizes that this is a great way to market her company. The other side of this thing is that when you get, what happens is it starts to grow exponentially. And the next thing, what happens to a lot of people is they become derailed because someone out of the blue will say, oh, by the way, that's not part of their vertical market strategy. Will say like, I need like 144 coffee mugs. And then they go, okay, I'll do it. But what happens is that immediately takes them off the rail, immediately. So some of the strength here is having the ability and the wherewithal to say no. Say, I'm not going to take that order, because I believe, and I will strongly contend, that if you are so busy working your vertical markets the way you should, you wouldn't have time to do the other business, and you don't want to get off course and derailed. So the purpose of this and the rationale, like we had talked about, the whole purpose of this, how do we start to manage our time a little bit better? We have our personal lives. Some of us are small businesses, and when I mean small business, people that are one-person shops that are doing everything, the billing, the accounting, the sales, the marketing. How do you do that in an effective way so that you don't burn yourself out and become ineffective, totally ineffective? By focusing what we're talking about, and this definitely creates some direction and focus for you. If I know that I'm going to be marketing to these 5 vertical markets in an aggressive manner, and I'm going to do the A's are going to be marketed to this way, the B's are going to be marketed to this way, the C's, et cetera, then guess what? We can then go back to the plan and say, how am I going to execute that? It's easier for you to find maybe virtual help that could help you execute this. But without a plan and just bouncing around, guess what? It makes their time management ineffective as well. So the whole key here is how do we streamline all of this to get a keen understanding of where we are, where we want to go, and how are we going to get there? And what are the tools we're going to use to actually execute that to make that happen? So again, we talk about budgeting. It facilitates your better marketing. And again, the different types of channels that you will use to reach out or touch points you would use to create effective marketing. Now, what's interesting, there was some studies done that less than about 2% of businesses spend about 20% of their sales revenues on marketing. Most spend between 1 and 11%. Now, I recommend that you spend about 8%. So if you're doing 100 grand a year in sales and your GP is about 35%, 8% of that, you'd be looking at about 8 grand a year. Now that's going to come off of your bottom line of 35 grand. But the question, as we had talked about before, is how are you going to allocate that budget? How are you? Now, what I find too, which is kind of amazing, is most people don't even have budgets for their marketing. It's a supplier will show up and we've got these great pens, they're discounted to you for XYZ, and okay, I'll buy some of them. That's the strategic marketing plan, and I just hand those out. And we hand those things out with the idea and the hope that people are going to get them and say, wow, these are great. I want to buy 10,000. Now that happens, but it doesn't happen that frequently. So again, there's ways to look at these budgets as we talked about and allocate them properly. I want to just tell you a real humorous story about my son, Alex. When he was about 8 years old, goes back to budgeting. I told him, I said, look, I'm glad to get you a cell phone. I'm happy to do it, but guess what? You have this much money to spend a month. That's it. Once you go over that, you owe me money. You have to pay me the difference. And he was like, really? I said, yeah. I'm thinking to myself, he has to learn at an early age how to allocate and budget his time and budget his money. So he comes back to me, and first 2 months are great. Month 3, $23 over his allotted budget. I said, Alex, you owe me money. And he kind of savoir-faire casted it off and said, Dad, just take it out of my bank account. No, I said, no, come with me. So we actually got in the car and we drove to the bank. And at 8 years old, to punch those numbers into a ATM machine and withdraw the money was very painful for him, and he did not like it. But what was interesting, the next 6 months, no issues. So we analyzed the problem and he figured it out. I said, well, you've done a great job. I'm amazed by that. I said, what did you do? What did you do differently? He goes, well, Dad, remember that girl I was dating at 8 years old? Remember that girl I was dating? Well, I found out that she wasn't on Verizon, and that was causing my bill to escalate. So guess what? My new plan is, if you want to go out with Alex Quicksell and you expect me to text you, you're going to have to be on Verizon or I can't help. I can't work with you. I just thought that was brilliant. I thought it would make a great ad for Verizon as well. But nonetheless, he understood the importance of being able to budget his time and budget his money so that he was most effective. And I think that I know that I took a learning lesson from that, and I actually got a cute story out of that as well. So when we start prospecting, it's the same principle. When we started talking about that inverted funnel, the companies that I'm working with, you look at your database and you say, okay, guess what? Aerospace is a great space for me. Where are the players? How many of them are local? Now, the nice thing about putting all these criteria in, as you see here, the strategic marketing mix, is that if you say, okay, I want people within a 10-mile radius of my office and there's 2, guess what? That may not be worth it. You may have to pull that criteria out and expand your reach a little bit. So it really does work remarkable. Anytime I design a creative marketing piece, even if it's just for my own use or for a client's use, I go through this process every single time along with discovery, which all kind of ties back into this. Now, people say to me, how do you find these lists? Well, I'll tell you, there's a company online called Upwork. I actually found someone on Upwork that did data research like this for $12 an hour, and she was remarkable. I remember one of my clients said, I'd like to get a list of the top car dealerships in Chicago, but I only want high-end car dealerships within a 25-mile radius of this particular zip code. And within 2.5 to 3 hours, she had a list, all of the data that was needed for 63 different dealerships. And what happened is this guy now has this amazing list that he can now focus and target in a vertical market that he knows and understands, and it's the high-level car dealerships, so that the messaging that he puts out there is going to be specific to that space and specific to that vertical where it all makes tremendous sense. Next, the role of statistics. I love using statistics because statistics help me in terms of, in ways that I can help formulate great marketing, but and again, you can have somebody do this research for you. It was interesting. There was a client, for instance, that when I originally worked with them, they said, we have a $5,000 budget. There's supposedly 5,000 people coming to the trade show. So what were they looking for? They told me, what can you get us for $1? That'll be great. Well, the reality is not everybody's coming by your booth, and the vast majority of the people that come by your booth are not your buyer. So the Trade Show Bureau years ago had a statistic. It was pretty interesting. It said only about 12% of the people that come to a trade show are your buyer. Now that can vary. That's probably an industry average. I mean, just an average, but you think about it. And you go to a home show, let's say you're not there to see everybody and anybody. There may be specific things that you want to see. The same thing holds true for our industry and for other industries as well. So I was able to take that statistic and say to the customer, would it not be better, and think about if you were the customer, would it not be better if we were to focus on the top 12 people, the 12% of the people that are coming to this show that you want to talk to? And they said, what do you want? What are you talking about? So go back to this. If I'm looking at going to a trade show, for instance, and looking at this grid and saying to someone, okay, you're going to this show and you're going to an industrial trade show and you're trying to exhibit so that you can introduce people to a new scissor lift that you're offering, that's $25,000. The reality is everybody that comes to that show is not going to be able to afford it. It's not going to be the decision maker, doesn't have the wherewithal to make the purchase, et cetera, or there's not a need or whatever. So each of those criteria, we want to find out who are the buyers that are coming? What is the ideal customer that could afford and have the desire and need for something like that? At an industrial trade show, are there specific types of industries? Are there painters, construction people, pipe fitters? Which are the ones in your database are the ones that actually utilize this more often than others? So now when I can sit there and help a customer understand all of those statistics and how we feed that in, and we do instead of having a 5,000 trinkets that we put on a table, perhaps we can take that $5,000 budget, and if we're looking at 12%, that would be 600. How can I, and it may not even be that many, it may be like 350. How do we take and create an amazing marketing piece that we can actually drive those key buyers who have the desire, the ability, and the wherewithal to purchase a piece of equipment that size to their booth? Would the client not have a better show? I'm going to answer that for you. Absolutely. Absolutely, they would have a better show. If they can actually qualify the right people that are coming in there, and make no mistake, your job as a marketer is to help drive the traffic there, not to sell a thing. If you help them get the right buyers, the right people to come to that event, then guess what? You have done your job. That's when the baton is handed off, and it's now their job to help make a difference. So what is creativity? How do we go about doing this in a marketable way? I mean, I love doing this in a live presentation because I ask the question and people get like Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. You know, the arm doesn't go above their neck. They don't want to raise their hand. But I contend that every single person has this amazing gift of being able to be creative. It's just that some people, it surfaces a lot quicker and easier and in a more fluid manner than it does for some. But make no mistake, each of you have it. And I would encourage you through these next case histories that I'm going to show you is to see that you can take the tools that we have at our disposal, print, packaging, promotional merchandise, creative copy, unique ways and methods of distribution, and you can implement these to specific targeted and vertical markets so that it positively works to your benefit when it relates to time management. It's focused. It's not 3,000 things going out at once where it's that proverbial elephant. It might be 15 pieces. It might be 25 pieces, but they're strategically done. If you do 25, you might do 5 a week for the next 5 weeks. So now you're proactively doing something. You're planning it. You're following up on it properly. That's where it's going to make a huge, huge difference. So let's talk about it. Creative marketing campaign. This one was targeted specifically to any type of manager, but typically a sales manager, because we were talking about, you know, pencil us in for just a short period of time to show that how we can make a difference. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly and share some statistics that were pretty remarkable. To date, we've done close to 8,000 of these with an average appointment rate setting of between 65 and 75%. It has been absolutely remarkable. It's simplistic. It drives a message. It has variable data printing in it. So you can see on the back, it says Quicksell calling today, important, take my call. So now I'm setting a tone for them. I send it out on a Monday, 5 pieces. Guess what? I've got it scheduled in my diary that they all go out on Monday. They're already done. They're shipped. I don't worry about it again, time management, until Wednesday morning at around 9:30, 9:20, I start the calls on those 5 people. Bang, bang, bang. And nothing gets in the way of that, short of an illness or something that happens with my family. But short of that, that time, that 30 minutes is devoted strictly to doing that follow-up. That's why we don't want to do all 25 or 50 at a time, because guess what? You won't do the follow-up. Or if you do it, it's going to be shoddy and it's not going to be done properly. So we take the time to do this. And the same thing holds true if you're going to do e-blast to a particular vertical market. Make sure that it's relevant. Sending stuff to an HR person for buck knives is not maybe not necessarily the product that you want to use. So you need to make sure that if you're utilizing product, or if you're using, if you're doing in the case of a postcard mailer or an e-blast, whatever you do, even in the case of dimensional marketing like this that we're going to discuss, make sure that it's relevant. It's really critical. This one right here was designed specifically for the medical market, but you can see the messaging, looking for a shot of creativity. Let us highlight why we're different. It's just a simple piece. This one has garnered over 45% appointment rate in the medical industry. So again, how do we go about looking at something that's relevant? This is maybe, I mean, the messaging, give us a shot. That's what we call an idiom. That's something that a lot of people could relate to because they understand the idiom there. But again, it's more targeted and better focused for the medical group. Let's say you were doing hospitality. What could you do there? How could you take the same theme and do it with hospitality? Let's say you had 4 core values of your business that you wanted to, that really resonated or should resonate with customers. Maybe you do 4 shot glasses in here that say, give us a shot. And on the side of each shot glass, it has 1 core value that will hopefully resonate with the audience. And how do you creatively package it like this with color and make it really pop so that when somebody gets it, it's not the same old stale thing that everybody else is doing? a pen, a cover letter, and a catalog in the mail. Now, you could do that, but I contend that that is what 97% of the people in the industry do. I encourage you to think like a 3%er. Do things like a 3%er. Next, this is a great piece. A buddy of mine and I worked on this. He wanted to, this is a media piece. So when somebody calls him up and says, hey, can you send me some information on your company? He doesn't send a catalog and a cover letter. He sends this piece. This piece tells his entire story. He's all about sustainable goods, doing things in a sustainable manner, excuse me. And he really, truly focuses on that. So we have an empty water bottle in there. The little booklet tells his story when you fan it open. The little packets there, instead of them being plant food, they're actually lemonade packets. So he does a parody on like a Miracle-Gro box and how this all ties together. Again, 87% appointment rate when he sends this out. Most people tell you, send me something in the mail. For what purpose? They tell you that to get you off the phone. If you send them what everybody else is doing, then you're the same. You want to be different? Do things differently. Here's a great piece here. You're trying to reconnect. We talked about how do we go about marketing to our prospects. What about, marketing to our existing customers? What about the people that have inadvertently fallen off the wagon? People that we lost for whatever reason, or maybe people we just got lazy and we just failed to talk to somebody. Maybe it's that A or B customer that you're sitting there going, wow, I would really love to have them back. Is there a way that you can create something like this that basically tells a story? You know, we've worked together in the past, but it's been a while. Let us reconnect and let us show you all the pieces that we have. Guess what? That we can actually keep your brand fresh and top of mind with your customers. Once again, this one had remarkable success in as much as when we've asked people, we surveyed people when we called, hey, did you get the piece? Yeah. And by the way, I have a question. Did you put the puzzle together? Over 93% of the people that we surveyed said that they indeed put the puzzle together. Now, a lot of people think, no, they're not doing that. But guess what? It's very, very interactive. So something that you have to consider and look at. Next, here's a great piece right here. This one, the gal, Teresa Gonzalez, did a remarkable job here. This was where talking about targeting and focus, she was targeting clients specifically in the Major League Baseball and, well, to start off with Major League Baseball. So she had a message on the front of the box that said, it's the bottom of the ninth, there's 2 outs and the bases are loaded. You open it up, who do you want at the plate? You know, when times are in crunch time, who do you want there on your team that's going to help you grow your business? So instead of doing something with a traditional business card in there, we actually did a baseball card with the company stats on the back, all positive stuff that really, really looked good. The results of this were absolutely remarkable. She was able to garner 4 new Major League Baseball teams and the endorsement from the minor league president on targeting all of the folks in that particular space. So it was remarkable. So again, if you tell people you're different, then you got to be different. If not, then you're the same. You have to do things differently. So when we talk about program development and targeting specifically, again, this all goes back to the time management. We have to ask the right questions, define the objectives and the desired results. We have to be excited about this. I think I'm beyond excited when I talk about creativity and marketing and how I can streamline my business. And I tell you folks, I went from being all over the place when I had my marketing company, that when I streamlined all these channels the way I'm sharing with you today, I had ample time on my hands after the fact to do the things that were really important to me. Spend time with my kids, spend time with my wife, and go on vacation and do the thing because I had a system in place. And we create these plans of execution and track and record. Guess what? It really makes a marketable difference. I also encourage you that to take the time, if you create a marketing campaign like this, to actually track the results of each of these client programs. I'm a big fan of the pyramid awards and whatnot, and I will tell you that if you decide to go in that direction, if anybody, by the way, needs help on that next year, because it's too late now, but I'm happy to help you with the, writing up your proposal and whatnot. But this really had propelled my business, winning these awards and things like that through this creative marketing. So here's something that I would suggest you not do, because a lot of times people will do things and say, oh, this is a great idea, but in some cases it's not a good idea. This was done in Germany. It was sent out to 40 different businesses, shops, and a handful of embassies, and also offices of a newspaper group. That it was an actual, it looks like a sticks of dynamite, and this actually had a functioning clock, a countdown clock that was on it. Now, what was interesting is they actually had to, They had to evacuate a couple of the embassies and many of the buildings. And the purpose was, smart purpose, was to raise awareness about the dangers of losing data and how that time was running out. But guess what? It created a massive scare. And it was interesting, in the article, the marketing director was noted as saying something along the lines of, I had no idea people would take it serious. Well, why wouldn't you? In this day and age, why wouldn't you take that serious? So again, I jokingly but seriously say, things that go boom, white powder that's falling out of envelopes, or firecrackers that look like dynamite, not maybe a good idea nowadays in this day and age on making things, having a creative marketing campaign. In some cases, they can backfire on you. So with every marketing campaign that I put together, again, I want time management. I want to archive the information. I want it right there. I don't want to have to look for it in 60 places. Right here, these are all the people that I've sent the piece to. On the far column there, I make notes. The time and date that I called. What was the reaction of the promotion? When do they want me to follow up? If I did not make contact with them, what message did I leave them? I will be back in touch with you, let's say, in 3 days. On Wednesday at around 11:30, I'll call. Then after I've gone through all my checklists, I go back to my calendar and I mark it in there. Must call at these particular times. Guess what? Now I forget about it. When it dings me that I have to make that call, I'm on it. So I don't lose any sleep over it whatsoever. So tracking and implementing is very, very critical. This whole interview process that we talked about, once again, trying to get it all in our head. This is a systematic way. If anybody on this call wants this document, all you have to do is send me an email. Any of the documents that we talked about, I'm certainly willing to do that. You can send me an email. But in this particular document, this really talks about all the different processes, the different steps that you would take to go and actually do a marketing plan. As I said, I do this for customers. Every time I design one for myself or for a customer, I actually go through the same process, because I want to understand all the steps so that I'm not wasting time going down one section of the road when I should be headed down a different section of the road. I want to make sure everything is following through, succinctly, if you will. Lastly, I want to share a great campaign. This was, I did this for a person that basically told me she hated promo products because they didn't work. But once again, we started looking at ways that we can effectively market. She was telling me, oh, I'm having struggles because I'm always out on the road. I'm always talking to people. I'm not getting the success that I want out of this marketing effort. I give away pens coming out of my ears. I give away coffee mugs, and nothing seems to work. I get no referrals. So I said, well, why don't we kind of go back and target the list a little bit differently? So we went back in and we looked at it and we said, what are you trying to accomplish? Well, first of all, she was a podiatric surgeon and she wanted to increase the amount of referrals. Well, long story short, there's only two ways that she was getting referrals. That's by word of mouth from her customers or patients, and by referring doctors. So I asked the question, which one give you better referrals? She says, well, obviously the doctors. My question was, which type? She goes, what does that matter? I said, it does. What type of doctors refer you? She goes, well, the two greatest ones are endocrinologists, the one that deal with the elderly, and also pediatricians. I said, let's pick one. Now, if you think about it, if I market to an endocrinologist who actually is marketing to the elderly or has elderly patients, that's a different message than the one that you would do with kids. And you have to understand that your marketing to that particular person has to be engaging. It has to resonate. If it doesn't, boom, you lose them in a second. So we picked pediatricians. We went in and we got some, and here's the hint, by the way, we got some teddy bears that were on special. Not on special. These were closeouts. We had closeout teddy bears that were on special. I went to a hobby shop and I got casting material that they would make tunnels and whatnot for train sets. And I physically casted 50 of these bears. Inside, we actually put a T-shirt on them with the logo of the company. We put a beaded chain around its neck with a little Sharpie marker, and we put a hang tag in its ear because we identified that a referring doctor, the biggest pain point or struggle that they had would be referring their patients to another doctor. And why is that? Do they have the same bedside manner? Are they going to take care of the patient the same way? So the whole idea behind this was, with this hang tag, is the logo of the practice was on there, and on the opposite side, we identified straight up. We realized that the biggest struggle in you referring us, your patients, is, are we going to take care of them? But we take care of your kids like they were our own. The doctor then would take, and she would sign the cast with her name and put her phone number on and said, you have my personal guarantee on this. Now, here's the funny thing. You will never find this teddy bear with a cast on it anywhere. It doesn't exist. And this is why I'm talking about the level of creativity, how it engages people, how it's relevant to the particular audience. And folks, they had said that they had a 46% spike in their referral program with those particular doctors. How does that, if you think about that, and somebody's having that type of success rate, do you think they'd come back to you? If you're one of the 3%ers that are out there creating at this level and doing things at this level and helping them manage their time and achieving the goals that they need to be, guess what? You've got a winning solution there. You have a winning system. So, final thoughts here. I think it's very important that you know your customer, obviously. And all of these things actually play into how we help manage our time more effectively. Knowing your customer, driving measurement in your marketing, making sure you segment your marketing efforts, create marketing campaigns that are cost effective and relevant to the audience that you're going after. Know your worth. This also helps you as well, and become an expert in each of these spaces, each of these vertical markets. Don't be a generalist. Generalists don't get paid what specialists get paid. Be an expert in those particular vertical markets that you choose, and at the same time, help your clients do the same thing. This way that it kind of goes a lot broader for you as you move forward. So with that said, I'd like to thank you for today, being on today's presentation. Here's my contact information if you're interested. If anybody's interested in this PowerPoint, please email me separately, and I'll be more than happy to push it out to you along with any other the documentation. And again, I also have a weekly blog that I do not sell anything on, but it's very motivational. And if you'd like to be a part of that, you can email me, and I'm happy to put you on that as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Rocio, and if she has any questions, I'll be happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you, Cliff. That was an extremely informative presentation you put together here. I hope that everyone can start putting together their marketing plan. We do have a few questions that just came in. Let's start with the first one from Eliza Seitrald. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. She wants to know, how do you find the trade shows to attend within the vertical markets?
That's a very good question. The best way to do it is just do a Google search. And you can just easily put in trade shows for hospitality or trade shows. That's probably one of the easiest tasks to do. You'll find, I guess the biggest thing is, which one do you attend? That's probably a bigger question, but I think you embrace Google to give you some really, really good data on that. That's what I would do.
Second one is from Alex. How do you move customers from B column to the A column?
Another good question. The way I do it is, you look at your Bs and you say to yourself, the B, let's say that the B, each of these categories, let's say your A category is pretty strong, but B, let's say this one has some of the characteristics of an A category, but they don't have them all. Let's say it's dollar volume. So maybe that we need to, if we understand that there's an opportunity because we don't have all of the market percentage there, maybe we need to start analyzing the company and see what are we not doing? Are we only, let's say, talking to the marketing department? Have we asked questions of the marketing department? Is there anybody else within the organization that does buying that you could introduce me to? So there's ways to do that. And maybe that one element that does not make them an A category, let's say it's sales, and you're about $3,000 shy of moving them up into that A category, there's ways that you can actually pump it up in that way. So that would be one of the ways that I would consider doing that. But again, it's just trying to create that. And, part of it is, some people will take on customers that they really shouldn't. And I think that if you're very honest with yourself and say, you know what, this person, let's say, doesn't even have the ability to move. Guess what? Then they just stay at that B level category, and you continue to market to them to keep them within that stable of clients that you have.
Thank you, Cliff. Another question from Eliza. What vendor do you use for the custom full color boxes you had in those campaigns?
Well, there's several that are out there in the space. I'm a big fan of a company called Independent Folders that's now owned by Ennis, but they have a subcontractor called Haynes Graphics. Now, the only stipulation is, this is funny, their maximum that they will do is 250 boxes. That's what their sweet spot is. But there's other companies out there that do them, like the Chess, Traffic, trying to kind of draw on a blank here, but Envision 3. But each of those have different, capabilities and whatnot. So I would, if you want a more extensive list, or if you want to talk about it more in detail, feel free to give me a bell, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. But those are a few of the people that I use on a regular basis. That TechWeld is another one that's really good, and Admins Zagabor, who's now part of HIT. They have some great packaging. You have to look at the packaging, though. Some of them only use like a chipboard, which is not mailable. Some of them use an e-fluted corrugated board. That's why I like using Independent Folders, because their boxes are mailable as is, and they don't have to go into another container. So again, it's all based on what you're looking to do and how you plan to implement it into the space.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cliff. That was the last question. I'm not sure if anyone else has any questions sitting around there. We wanted to let you know that we have recorded this webinar, so it'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Look out for our email tomorrow afternoon with the link, and also a quick survey on your thoughts on this presentation. Also, please check out our website, sagni.org, for upcoming events. And if you have any questions for Cliff, you have his email address right there, or you can email me, Rocio, R-O-C-I-O, @sagni.org. Again, thank you all so much for joining us on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Cliff, thank you again for a wonderful presentation, and we'll be chatting very soon.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, everyone.